Down to the river, darling, where you've been lost and found. Down to the river, child, when you are meeting holy. Down to the river, darling, where you've been lost and found. Down to the river, child, when you are meeting holy ground.
Hello, my name is Svetlana Stone. You are watching Artist Voices, where we believe it's essential for artist voices to be heard. And we are pleased to have here tonight a local artist, Grace Theisen, to talk about what does it take, what it means to be a musician at 21st century. Thank you so much, Grace, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to talk about you and about your new record that we heard. It's going to come soon. Could you please tell us more about yourself, how you get to Kalamazoo?
Yeah, so I'm actually from Kalamazoo. I grew up in a pretty musical family. I had a god family that had 5 kids, and we had 5 kids. And so all of our holidays were surrounded with guitars and music, Patty Griffin, Emmylou Harris. But it wasn't until college, I went to Hope College in Holland, Michigan, that I got serious about music. I went in pre-med and then found out about the issue of sex trafficking in the US. And that sort of took me down a whole different path I didn't see myself going on. So my best friend and I co-founded a nonprofit in college called Songs Against Slavery. And we put on benefit concerts around the US to fight sex trafficking. And so with that, I saw the power that music has of just being this like universal language that is really amazing in bringing healing, but also just, you know, nobody really wanted to go listen to a lecture on human trafficking, but if we could pair it with music, we could actually get a lot of people to come. So that sort of got my foot in the door. We moved to Nashville in 2015. So I was down there for 3 years running Songs Against Slavery, and that whole experience, we did it for almost 10 years, got my foot in the door in the industry. But then as we got closer to ending Songs Against Slavery, I saw like, oh, I actually want to do music myself full time. I was doing it a little bit while doing Songs Against Slavery, but I never really fully stepped into the identity of like, I want to be a musician. I actually really am still terrified of performing. I make myself do it, but I don't love it yet. But I have loved being back home. So I moved back to Kalamazoo 2 years ago, right before COVID hit, and thought, I'm gonna be a musician full time. And then COVID hit, and I was like, I'm not gonna be a musician full time. So yeah, that's sort of my journey on how I got back here. And in that time of COVID, I recorded this record.
So could you please tell us more about your record, when it's going to be released, what your music about?
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And what your message you're trying to tell through your music.
Yeah.
That would be great.
So I think when I started, I've always been a songwriter since I was little. My music that I did in Nashville, those records were a little bit more, I'd say, singer-songwriter folk pop. But being back home, my cousin was in a blues band growing up, and I always went to like Louie's and all these bars around here to hear him and his band play. And just being back home actually in Kalamazoo has just reminded me how much I love blues music and how much I love the experience of going to a concert and having music where you feel like you can get lost in it, but also like you want to dance. So this record is sort of like a bridge from where I was to where I want to go. It's Americana, it's a little pop, it's a little blues, and I wrote all these songs actually during COVID. So for me,
they're your own
songs,
so they're lyrics and music, everything.
Yes, yeah. So I worked with
awesome.
a producer out of Adrian, Michigan. His name is Jake Rye, and he's worked with a lot of local musicians in Kalamazoo, and yeah, he really made the songs come to life. But the bare bones was, you know, me at home with a guitar and song lyrics. And for me, the meaning of like writing music, it has to come from somewhere inside that feels like this is what I need to hear. not really necessarily like this is a song that could be on the radio, or like I hope so. But for me, writing is much more like, what am I going through right now, and how can I express this in a song? I feel like a lot of times first it's like healing for me first, and then it goes on the record kind of a thing, which was cool during COVID because we spent a lot of time alone. And so I spent a lot of time in my music room, just me and my guitar and my thoughts. And sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes that can be not a good thing. But this record for me was like very healing, and writing it during the pandemic of like, yeah, just remembering that there is hope and that music will come back. And I don't think now, having played a year here and gigged here for the last year, I don't know that us musicians will ever take it for granted playing in front of people. I don't think we really thought about that before, that like how special it is that people will come watch you. And now with like live streams, we can reach more people, but it's still not the same as, I would say, like an in-person concert. So all that to say, the record is a lot about...
Yeah, tell us about what your music about, what kind of message you're trying to promote through your music. Tell to the world, to the people.
This record, so we closed our nonprofit. I had 2 back surgeries while I was running my nonprofit. There was a pain med addiction, and so this record for me was like, moving back home to Michigan was really hard. I had lost all my community, I thought I was gonna do that nonprofit my whole life. So this record for me is about like learning how to start over and learning how to find new identities and stepping more into who I am, who am I behind closed doors, not who am I when everyone else is telling me who I am.
Exactly.
As the youngest of 5, I get told a lot what to do.
Exactly. I think we all was going through this. It's important to finally found.
And I definitely feel like this record for me is like, I'm starting to find my voice, and I'm starting to be like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And there was a lot, it was really hard to write, but I think now listening back to it, almost 2 years from when we recorded it, it's been really cool to be like, wow, I have come so far from, having these surgeries and having this nonprofit. And I moved to Costa Rica for 6 months after it all ended, because I was just like, I have to find myself again. Like, I don't even recognize who I am anymore with the pain meds and all the things that I had to go through in this transition to get honestly back home, like physically, but also back home to like who I am. So yeah, this record is definitely, I think, much more of me musically and lyrically coming home to myself.
Wow, that's great message. And you mentioned about that you were in Tennessee, Nashville.
In Nashville,
Nashville, Tennessee, for 2 years during the COVID.
Yeah.
And you were not even realized that you want to be an artist for full time. But what was the focal point that you just woke up and you said, no, it's enough, I want to do this? What was the friend maybe, or some episode that happened, or maybe you heard message that you realized this is my time, and I have to do something right with what I have inside with my message, and
that's a great
follow
question.
my dream.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's interesting
since you said you grew up
and
in this music environment, but you were not taken seriously until the last.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even take myself. I wouldn't even call myself a musician until probably the past year. I would never tell people.
So what was that focal point?
Yeah. So I think the first part was being in Nashville. Anytime we ran a concert or I would go see a show, I was really jealous. And there's something about, I don't know if it's a quote I just read, but like when you're jealous of something, it's like what you actually should be doing.
But it's a good jealousy.
Yeah, no, it's a good jealousy. Yeah.
Right?
It was like,
you're not
I
just
want
jealous.
to be doing that. No. It was
you're just like, what I can do to get there, right?
It's like, how can I have the confidence to do that? And so when I moved to Costa Rica, I was really burnt out on music. I was burnt out on our nonprofit and just life. I moved there telling no one I was a musician. Like literally, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't bring my guitar. And it was that 6 months of like slowly the place that I worked was like, hey, will you play music for a yoga session? Or like they sort of like coaxed me out of my shell. Yes.
So no one knows, but they ask you.
Well, so they found out, but I wouldn't play for them. I was like really shy, and I was like, I just don't want to do that. And so they started like slowly convincing me, But it was that 6 months in Costa Rica where I finally realized, like, oh, this is the identity. Like, I saw
that you
again.
were looking for all your life,
yeah,
right?
like how music was healing just in a yoga shala when I'm singing over people, and just like that experience of like, oh, this is what I want to do. Like, this has always been inside of me. It's always been my greatest joy. I just had to have the confidence to like step into that identity of like, okay, when I go back home, I'm going to figure out how to be a musician and say I'm a musician instead of just like, oh, well, I do music on the side, or I love music, but it's not like I never claimed it as I'm a musician. So it was really that 6 months of honestly just like not having it really, choosing not to have it, where I was like, oh, I can't live without it. I can't live not doing this. It feels way too special to me. So yeah, I mean, a lot of tears, a lot of like really hard conversations, but
Yeah, talk about.
it wasn't easy. Yeah. The hard part about being a
Yeah,
musician.
speak about the tears. What does it take to be a musician
Yeah.
at 21st century? Could you please share with
Yes.
your experience? And you mentioned earlier before we start the show that's not your first album. You
Yeah.
had recorded so before, but
Yeah.
now you just really determined. So what does it take to be a musician at 21st century?
A lot of caffeine.
I agree on that.
A lot of like sleepless nights. Yeah, I think what people don't realize is actually, I think right now might be the hardest time to be a musician because of social media, because everyone has access to streaming music. What you don't see on the back end of that is like, to make a record still cost upwards $15,000. So like, and streaming gives us no money. Like, you know, we're not making any money. So I think what people forget is like, when you're listening to someone's music, behind that was like sleepless nights, you know, writing your heart, trying to find a producer, and then recording the songs, and then practicing, like all the hours upon hours, like hundreds of hours that goes into one product. You just click a button and you listen to it almost for free. And so I think right now the challenge is, I would say, getting resourceful. Like, I've had to really learn to be like, okay, how can I be a musician and make money? And right now it's not my full-time job. And I'm actually thankful it's not, because it doesn't put stress on having to figure it out, but it gives me time to figure out how to make a business plan to make it my full-time job. I think people forget that music is still a business, and to be an artist, you have to think about it like a business. And there's a lot of stuff.
Besides the talent that you
Yes.
have and the product that you're trying to
Yes.
release, your message, your thoughts,
Yeah.
right? Besides of that, being talented is not enough right
No.
now, right? It's not
No.
just like, you're talented, I'm write this song, that's it.
Yes.
So there's actually
No.
many steps.
Yeah, you
to
have to
bring
think
that.
about branding and marketing and social media and your identity on social media and what's your messaging, and like that. Those are all the things that, for me, the gift that COVID was, as hard as it was. I got to have almost 2 years in my room to think about all that and to have people coach me through that. So like, yes, it is really hard to be a musician right now. And if you are someone who listens to music, I would highly recommend, if the artist you listen to has a Bandcamp or has a Venmo on their Spotify, go send them some money, because like every artist right now is struggling, not having shows be as easy as it used to be. I mean, touring is how musicians make money. And so there was no touring. And so yeah, it's stressful. I have a lot of like pulling my hair out moments of this is really scary. But I think for me, I have a good level of fear with it. That's like, again, almost back to that jealousy of like, I know if I don't do this, I'm not going to be happy. Whatever I do, like I know this is the thing I need to be doing right now, because it scares me the most. And that's how I know it's the right thing to be going after. So, I don't know. It's challenging to be an artist right now, but I think it's showing who has like the grit, and you have to be resourceful, and you have to ask for help. I think maybe that's the biggest thing I learned, is asking for help from people who have done it ahead of me.
So not afraid to asking for help.
Yes, like surround yourself with people smarter than you in the industry. Like that, we did that with our nonprofit of like, we want a board of people that know what they're doing, because we don't. So like in my music, I want mentors that know what they're doing, because I don't on the business side of things. So you really have to learn a lot. You have to be educated and be willing to like take courses, or it's like going back to school actually is how I feel.
agree.
Yeah. this past 2 years has been a big education.
So please don't worry, Mama, I'm gonna find my way. The good Lord knows when I need Him, I'll find my knees and start to pray. And I'll hear you say, let's go down.
So, welcome to Artist Voices. We are here, for those of you who just tuned in, we are here at Public Media Network with our special guest, Grace Theisen, local musician, to talk about what does it take to be a musician at 21st century. Thank you for watching us. And thank you again, Grace, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We just speak a lot of like hot topics, and I would like to
covered a lot.
continue.
Yeah.
I would like to continue, on that. So we spoke about what does it take to be a musician at 21st century. We talk about the challenges that musicians face, and also. I like that you mentioned that it's very important to not afraid to ask help.
Mm-hmm.
And what other advice you could give to the young musicians that are going to watch you?
Mm-hmm.
What would be your advice to them?
I would say this is something I'm learning right now. I just read this book called I think it's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And basically, he talks a lot about how everything that you do in your life, on a day-to-day basis is a vote for the person you are going to become. And for me, I have a really hard time sticking to schedule. Like I am, as a classic musician, like I'm a little all over the place every day. But something I've been trying to work on is like structure. I think musicians, we all struggle a little bit with structure of practice time. And all we want to be doing is writing songs and recording, but you forget about like vocals.
You have to present
guitar.
them those songs, right?
Yeah, and like even interviews, like things that you go into part of being a musician. And so something I would recommend is like, for me, I've been working on just like, even if it's like 30 minutes a day, I'm practicing guitar technique. Like these little non-negotiables that actually make a difference in the end has been really helpful to me, even in the last 2 years, to see the progress I've made with, getting a voice coach and getting a guitar coach. I think we're scared to make an investment in ourselves. And this year I spent money, I invested in myself with vocal lessons and with guitar theory and guitar lessons. And that I was really scared to do that because it was a lot of money. But my sister was like, this is also your business. And with any business, you make usually an initial investment, like going to school. Like you make an investment to go to school. And so I would say, don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Like take a chance on yourself. Because if you aren't going to take a chance on yourself, no one's going to take a chance on you.
Exactly. If you don't believe, then
yes,
you have to believe at first, probably yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And that for me was the last, being in Costa Rica was like, I have to believe that I can be a musician. No one else is going to convince me otherwise. Like
that's true.
So that's a huge part of that.
I like it. That's the same what I heard at the opera show. She said, first you have to find your identity and who you are. Yeah. And then master what you believe you are, what you're calling in your life. Because if you're not mastering, as you said, you don't spend those hours, you do not invest.
Yeah.
Then you're not going to be noticeable.
Yeah.
People would notice you when you are being mastered in what you believe.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Well, and I think too, also, something I've had to remember is how important rest is with being a musician. Because I have a hard time just sitting down and doing nothing, but I have learned the more I can have time every day for myself to rejuvenate, I'm going to bring that energy into writing music. If I'm just showing up, I had a songwriter, we had this award that my song won, which we'll talk about I'm sure later, got me into this 6-month program. And these songwriters who have written with really big names, John Legend, Kelly Clarkson, they do workshops with us. And this one songwriter said, why are you bringing your worst self to your music every day? Why are you giving everyone else your best energy?
Wow.
But you aren't bringing your best energy to songwriting? he was like, if this is what you want to be doing, you should be able like to have time before you write of like meditating or whatever you need to do to center yourself and then go into a co-write. Versus like for me, I'd get home from work, like my day job, and then I'm all over the place and I'm hungry and then I'm going in like depleted. And so I think that's something I've tried to work on this year is like, how can I show up as my best self to this craft that I want to do for the rest of my life? So that's been a hard lesson. I haven't quite nailed that yet.
So you said you got a lot of help from I don't know whom, but what was the best advice that the other musician gave it to you?
Yeah.
That helped you to get where you are right now?
Yeah. So I would say the best advice that I have gotten, well, two things. My Carrie Cole, who runs this program that I've been in for the last 6 months with the songwriters, she said, in looking at songwriting, what is the thing right now for me that's the hardest thing to say? That's usually where you need to start in writing a song. And I think for me, I sometimes am very scared to be that vulnerable. And you can always go back and make edits, but like for writing a song, you should really be like, you know, similarly to Adele, like she takes 3 years to write a record and you hear the record and you're just like, oh my gosh, like it feels like her heart. But I feel like that's why we do music, is like putting your heart in the song. And so I think,
be vulnerable.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about what's the song that I need to hear right now? I need to write that song for myself first, and then if it's great, you know, I'll put it on the record. But if not, sometimes it's okay just to have a song for yourself. The other thing my favorite artist in Nashville told me was, he was like, don't forget just to play music. Like, I think we forget, we lose the joy of just playing music. Like, doesn't matter if it's your full-time job or not. The thing that music gives us is like healing and just fun. And so I've had to remember that a lot during COVID of like, now that I'm playing with my band a little bit more, like, oh, this is so fun. Like, music can be fun instead of just like so stressful all the time and all the other things that we have to do with it. So.
And speak about, back to your album, how people can find information about you, your website, how they can get your website and maybe releasing show or like anything that people can find about music. If you can share with us your website,
Yes.
Any platform that you use, people can connect and follow you, your music, and tell us about more message, what what you're trying to tell through your music. That would be very helpful if you can share right now with our viewers.
Yes, so my website is just gracetheisen.com. Theisen spelled looks like Theisen. And then with this record, the first single came out.
And what's the name of your record?
So the record's called Dance with the Shadows.
Dance with the Shadows. Can people find on what platform they can find?
Yes, so on Apple Music. On Apple Music, you can pre-order it. If you just type in my name, it'll pop up and you can save it. The first single is called Brightest at Night, and it came out December 3rd. The second single is coming out January 7th. And so Down to the River will come out January 7th, and that will come with a music video. This is actually the song I'm most excited about coming out on the record.
What is this song about? You're excited about?
Yeah, so this song is the one that actually won me that competition that got me in that program. But I wrote it about, you know, being okay with sort of like, I actually wrote it for my parents. I wrote it about, you know, I'm gonna go do my own thing, but I will never forget the lessons that you taught me. And for me, that was we grew up with faith and Down to the River. And so, this is a song that has felt like, it doesn't matter where you go, you can always come back to your roots. And for me, literally, I'm back in Kalamazoo, but also this song just like metaphorically as well.
So on those platforms, the website,
Yes.
any like Instagram, website, other platforms, you're very welcome to share. So we want people hear about you, about your message. That's why we are here to support artists, so their voices would be heard and their messages.
Yes.
So people would start more
Yeah.
supportive and understanding what it takes to be a musician. It's 21st century, that it's not easy path. I think it's only brave people can do that. And
so
strong.
true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so on my website, you can find all the links to Spotify, Instagram.
And again,
all
what's
the
your
things.
website?
It's www.gracetheisen.com. And then I have a show at Bell's on the 21st in Kalamazoo.
December?
No, January, sorry.
January, yeah. Your future shows,
Right.
yeah. Could you
yeah,
tell
yeah,
us?
January 21st.
First, that's
I'm
great.
opening for a band named Woots. And then, so that'll actually be my first time playing Bell's Backroom. So I'm very excited.
Awesome.
It'll be a full band, and you can find my shows on my website. So.
Okay, that's information about that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's great. Anything else you would like to add? Something that we might miss? You're very welcome to do it now.
I think that's pretty
That's
much it.
great. Okay.
I think we covered a lot of topics.
Okay,
Yeah.
so thank you so much for being with us tonight.
for
We really
having me.
enjoy to learn about you as an artist, about your album, the challenges, everything. You know,
Yeah.
what would it take to you to get to the point you are right now? And I really wish you from all of my heart, to success, to all your dreams that you're dreaming, would come true, so that your message would be heard and more people would support and be healed through your music.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's important.
Very
yeah,
important.
That's important.
Thank you
Mhm.
so much.
Yes, so your music would influence a lot of people. Yeah,
That's the
I wish
hope.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Well, this concludes this episode of Artist Voices, where we believe it's essential for artist voices to be heard. And again, we are thank Grace for being with us tonight and sharing about her story. And thank you for watching us, and see you next time.